Welcome, welcome, welcome. It's 8 o'clock. This is Knowledge and Nonsense. I am your host, Kenneth Campbell, and it's time to talk. Special thanks to Calzura. Hey, you see that? Get your shoes. Get your shoes. Straps that match. Look at that. I got straps that you can mix and match. I got them everywhere. Straps that, no strap. Treat your feet. Treat your feet. Use that code. Time to talk. Get you a discount today. Get you a discount today. Treat your feet. Hey, we've been talking and talking about culture. We've been talking about standards. We've been talking about training. We've been talking about everything related to sterile processing and what happens in this culture of ours. Well, today I wanted to take a different approach. I wanted to do something different. So, what I wanted to address is the climate that we're in right now and the shortages. What happens when you don't have the staff? What happens when you have to go outside of the box and think differently? You have to go out and you have to get staff. What does that look like? You have to call in travelers. They're experienced travelers, new travelers. What do you do in those situations? I personally have traveled and I've gone to every assignment from small facilities to large facilities just to be a helping hand. And every experience was different. But today I'm going to talk to an experienced traveler. I'm going to hear from the other side of the coin what that experience was like at some of those facilities that she was at. We all know her. We're gonna hear her experience just so she can tell you firsthand what she has seen, what she has experienced. Because again, I could tell you my horror stories, I could tell you some great stories, but that would be my experience. Let's hear from somebody else. Family, to the platform, I want to welcome Miss Selendra Barefield.
Thank you, thank you, thank
Hey,
you.
Selendra, how are you?
Hey, wonderful. How are you?
Hey, time to talk. We welcome you, we embrace you,
Thank
and
you.
hey, I watched you and your platform and everything that you've brought to the field, and it's an honor to have you here with us today.
Same here. I'm glad to be here, especially talking about travelers because they don't get a lot of light shined on them. So this is a great opportunity to get them a little, give them their coins.
So let me start by this. Let me give you the floor for a second. So just you yourself, can you tell us a little bit? I know don't want to name facilities, but can you tell us a
Mhm.
little bit about where across the country you have been?
Okay. I would say my traveling career started before I was technically a traveler. I've
Okay.
always moved around. So, when I started in Santa Monica, California, where I started my sterile processing career, and I was there for a minute. Then I went over to Colorado and I hung out there and went to a couple of facilities out there. And before I traveled, I was really nervous to travel. And I was working, I think, at a level 2 hospital. And I said I did PRN at a trauma 1 because I wanted to make sure I was ready. So I was setting myself up to travel before I actually really traveled. And then when I moved to Georgia is when I started traveling. So all my travel experience was always in the Southeast because I wanted to stay close to home. So I was always in Georgia, the Carolinas, Mississippi, and Arkansas.
Okay. So for aspiring techs that want to travel,
Yes.
what would you say is a decent amount of time that you would give yourself to learn the craft before you travel?
I think it really depends on where you are right now. Like for instance, if your whole experience been in a trauma 1 and you've been there for 2 years, I would say you're ready in 2 years. If you spent 2 years in a surgery center, I don't think you're ready. I think you need to get some more trauma experience, I would say, to be able to deal with that fast pace, to be able to deal with those different surgeries and different instruments and different people. the different vendors, and just what it feels like, and what it is. It's almost like a city, I guess you can say, the way it hums and the hustle, almost like you in New York or something like that. So I would say if you've been in a surgery center for a couple of years, I don't think you're as ready as someone who has been in a trauma level 1 for the same 2 years.
Okay. And with that said, how does that work with your certifications and, preparing yourself for certifications and, being certified means you have to be signed off and, you know, getting that manager to sign this, that, and the third. How do you get those managers to sign off to say you've got that experience when you're bouncing around?
You know what? That's a good question, because I had all my certifications before I started traveling. I took care
Okay.
of everything possible. See, the thing is, I was concerned with not having any travel experience. And so I wanted to make sure I was competitive. So I made sure
Okay.
I had my CRCST, my CHL, and my CIS before I even got out there and started traveling. So I didn't have that
Okay.
issue at all.
So that goes back to the beginning of getting ready
Yes,
before you jump into that water. Okay. Okay.
yes, yes,
So 2 to 3 years under your belt,
yes,
getting your certification,
yes,
and then jumping out there and saying, I may be ready depending on the facility
yes.
that you're at. So you can be at a surgery center, not be ready. You can be at a level 1 and possibly be ready.
That's my personal opinion. However, it also depends on too now the type of person you are at that surgery center. If you're one of those laxy daisy type of people who just kind of do only what's necessary, then compared to someone who's hungry for the information, so they're creative, they're innovative, they're in the OR, they're helping out, they're doing more than what's expected of them, then that drive and that hunger for information, I mean, you tapping into podcasts, you showing up to meetings, and you gathering all that information and data, you could be at a surgery center for 2 years and in a better situation than somebody at a trauma 1. So I think it's a combination of where you are as far as where you're working at the moment, and then your drive and your hunger for that information and your hunger to succeed. So it's a combination. I can't even really say. I just know that they want you to have 2 years experience. Where it comes from, I don't really know which one to set you up for success, but I would start with mindset. If you got that hunger and you got that drive for education like I do, then I think that you're going to be successful wherever you go. Wherever they drop you off on the planet, you're going to be good if you had that mindset that I could do anything, and you always putting your education first.
Now, with that said, Arlene's checking in. She said, hey, family, we got to
Hey,
make
fam.
family members are checking in. Family members are checking
Yes.
in.
Yes.
Um, okay, with that said, and I know that's a common trend. They're asking for that 2 years experience at least.
Yes.
Does that, and again, you said it depends on the person, but is
Yes.
that entirely true? Like, so if you say surgery center versus level 1, me
Yes.
being a director,
Yes.
I look at the two resumes and I see person A, surgery center,
Yes.
person B, trauma center,
Yes.
and I have a trauma center, but I need one tech.
Mm-hmm.
Who do I
Okay.
lean to? Who do I lean towards?
Now this is juicy. This gets real good, and that's when an interview come in at. So it depends on exactly what you have going on at your facility. So what role do you need that person to play? How do they fit into the culture? So I'm thinking, like, if you're looking for somebody to come in and do what, so it depends to me on your needs at that moment. It also depends on when you talk to somebody interviewing, what are they bringing to the table outside of that experience? Do they have, I guess, the soft skills to be able to get in there and get things done? Are you looking for somebody to come in there and that's creative? Are you looking for somebody who's come in there and take the lead? Are you looking for somebody who just follow direction? Are you looking for somebody just to go to decon? So I think now it comes down to what type of person are you looking for to fit into the culture that you have going on in your department?
Okay, so now we're getting into it now. So as a traveler, when you go into these facilities, and I'm short staffed, so I
Yes.
need somebody to hit the ground running.
Yes.
So that means I need somebody who can fit in all aspects of a department. So that
Yes.
means from sterilizer to decon to case carts to
Mhm.
whatever I need.
Yes.
Do you pick up the same skills from a surgery center to a level 1?
No. No. In my experience, when I worked at a surgery center, I would say the biggest difference was the speed. There was no urgency for me. There was no rush for me because of my experience. So it was kind of lackadaisical, I guess. Yeah, the speed is not there. I would say someone honestly, when I was recruiting, we were trying to make sure that we fit the person based on their experience. So if we had somebody coming from a trauma center or maybe a level 3, we were not going to throw them into a trauma 1. It'll scare them to death. They wouldn't last there. It'll eat them alive. So we had to make sure
Okay.
we set them up for success. So we were very strategic of where we would send people based on their experience. Not saying
Okay.
they couldn't do the job, but we wanted to make sure they were successful and it didn't scare them to death. It's almost the same when people come into sterile processing for the first time and they go through the job interview. They may have some transferable skills. They got the soft skills. They're willing to learn. They want to grow and all that other stuff. And they get inside that trauma 1 and they like, oh my God, the sterilizer going off, the phone ringing, the door slamming, the washer's going, and they can't handle it. And they were never prepared for that. And a lot of them don't make it because of that.
Okay. But in 2 years, and that's why we asked for that 2 years experience. So in two
Yes.
years, you've never been in that situation. So that's why we asked for that 2 years, because we're figuring in a 2 years, you've never seen all of that.
Yes.
So, and from a traveler standpoint, we do ask for a lot,
Yes.
and we are asking you to step into a bigger role. I guess that's what we're saying. So we need you to step into a bigger role, which leads to my next question. When you go into a facility, and we're talking you specifically, when you go into a facility, how do you deal with the culture in that facility that you go to? Whether that be you got those old timers who are set in their ways, or you have that new group of techs that are not up to speed yet,
Yes.
so to speak.
Yes.
How do you personally deal with that?
I don't get into the culture. I really don't. I separate myself from everyone there. I'm there to do a service. I'm there to give the manager what they're asking for. I'm not there to guide or teach. I'm not there to change policies. I'm not there to correct them. I'm not there to tell them what they're doing wrong. However, if I do something, see something that's a safety issue, whether it's for the text or it's for the patient, then I'll let the manager know. I'm not there to go to lunch with everyone. I'm there to provide them with the highest quality service and products, and that's it. I'm not there for the culture. I don't really too much I deal with the culture because I'm only there for 13 weeks. So it's very important for me to pick up as fast as I can. So I don't even have time because it's like after the 13 weeks is up, I feel like I'm really in my groove at that moment. You know what I mean? I feel like I know where the
Right.
cafeteria is. I know where to park. I know certain people's names now, and now it's time to go. So I really don't have time to get into the culture.
Okay. So the person that trains you, let's say it that way. So the person
Yes.
that trains you,
Mm.
or the person that orientates you, I won't say train,
Yes.
the person that orientates you when they're trying to, hey, watch out for this person. Hey, you need to make sure you do this that way. Do you tune that out?
That's a really good question. No, I don't. No, I don't. No, when they say watch out for a particular, usually when somebody tell me to watch out for someone else, I'm watching out for them. Because I'm like, why are you even telling me this information? Like, you don't even know me. So why are you looking out for me off the rip? So I usually pay attention to them. Um, and then as far as what they're telling me, because I have had so-called trainers or educators or people who are oriented me to, the process there tell me things that are wrong. And I know they're wrong. I've been in several
Okay.
situations like that. It depends on the person because I try to read people. So usually everywhere I go, I'm pretty quiet and I kind of just sit back and peep game. And so I try to find a easy way to let them know that what they're telling me is wrong. So usually what I'll do is, so why do we do it like that? Or so why are you doing it like that? Oh, okay. Well, according to Amy SC79, I try not to hit them too hard with it because then they'd be like, oh my God, I'm a walking Amy. But I usually ask them, why are we doing it this way? And I may suggest a better way. And it depends on the feedback I get from them if I continue because I respect their position. See, when I go into these places, I let them know I respect your position. This is your house and I'm a guest. So I try to find out how they receiving the information from me before I move forward. If they're not good with receiving the information, oh, okay, yes, ma'am. Oh, okay, yes. Oh, that's how you want it done. And when I'm out that orientation, I'm out there training, I'll go back to doing it the way it's supposed to be done.
Okay, so that leads me to that was the follow up to, that leads me to this question. When you go into some of these facilities, are you often more trained than most of the techs you come across? And if so, you kind of answered it, but how do you treat those situations? If you're more trained or you see yourself more experienced, more trained than the techs at these facilities, and it's not saying that the leadership's bad, but
Yes.
they just don't know.
Yes.
How do you handle those situations? I see you alluded to like, hey, that's not the ST-79, or hey, that's not
Yes.
the ST-91. That's
Right.
not Amy. Hey, what are we
Yes.
doing here? So
Yes.
how do you bring that to the manager in a respectful way to say, hey, that's not the proper way here that we're doing this?
Yes. I've been in situations, a lot of situations where people are not just doing basic installation tests on instruments.
Right,
It kills me.
right.
And I had to bring it up as, do you know that, the danger in this? Do you know people they come back to the OR because this is not done? I approach people sometimes with the danger. But when it comes to managers, I let them know. I mean, if it's a patient safety issue, I definitely let them know. But as far as me going places and being better trained than the people in there, that happens most of the time because of, I guess they call it the group think, where everybody just want to do everything that everybody's doing and no one wants to really say anything. Um, how do I deal with those people? Very carefully, because if I don't, I'm cognizant of sabotage. So I'm really worried about that, honestly, because you go into these places and you think you know it all, people will sabotage you. So I'm
Right.
very cognizant of that. So I watch who I talk to. I will take it to leadership. And then I watch body language and conversations with those people to see if they're ready to receive that information. And I correct them, but I don't go around correcting people. So I really,
Okay.
honestly, I really stick to myself and I stick to my craft and I stick to the job I'm paid to do. I don't pay much attention to what's going on with everyone else. I'm not there as a consultant. So I'm not there looking for the cracks. I'm not there looking for the process errors and things like that. Honestly, I just keep my eye on my job and that's pretty much it.
So what if that the way you do it? Okay, you know what? You just brought up a
What?
very good point. So I'm gonna go to commercial, and when we come back, I want to talk about what you just said because it brings up a very interesting point when you say sabotage. So we're gonna talk about that right after this commercial.
Yeah.
Those in the know SIPS Consults. SIPS Consults is hiring. Confident, competent, and consistent. Starting as a consultant and a volunteer, SIPS has grown into a dynamic group of stellar sterile processing professionals, offering excellent benefits, 401k, and consultant in training program. We are hiring certified technicians, leads, supervisors, interim managers, educators, coordinators. Apply at recruiting@sipsconsults.com or dial 1-866-615-7977.
Again, I want to give a very big shout out to Kalzura. Hey, again, use the code Time to Talk. Get your discount on your shoes. Treat your feet. I saw Danny giving a big shout out. I saw Luwayne. I saw Star checking in. Everybody's definitely in the building. Uh, right before we went to commercial, you said you got to be wary of the sabotage.
Oh, yes.
Can we talk about that a little bit? Have you ever been a victim of the sabotage, and why would you say that? If you're
Um,
if you're there to help, why would you be a victim of sabotage?
Oh, because you have people that are very upset that you're there. Even and it's crazy because it's like I'm here to help. However, some people are so. Have you ever been around people that it's like no matter what you say to them, it's just a bad day. It could be a sunny day, it could be spring, it could be anything going on great, but they find a way to find something wrong with it. And you have a lot of people in the department. It doesn't matter what the manager does or leadership does to help them out. They're pissed off anyway. So here you are, you brought in this traveler to help you not do so much overtime, keep your weekends to yourself, may minimize call or whatever it is, but they're mad anyway that you're there. And they find reasons to be mad. Oh, she's making too much money. Oh, she thinks she knows everything. Different things like that. So
right.
they start sabotaging you to prove that you're not as good as you think you are. And, you shouldn't be there and you don't need to be there, which is really silly, because if I'm not there, then what? You're back to the overtime. You're back to, delays in cases. You're back to all the issues you had before, but they still decide to sabotage you. I've seen it where it was a tech. She would come into work and she was great. I work great with her because I work real great with top performers. Those are people I gravitate to. So that's why maybe I don't see all the other slackers and all the people who don't know what they're supposed to do, because I gravitate toward the top performers. So she was a top performer, and she, me and her used to do like vascular sets. We'll do the neural sets. We'll do the dental sets. We'll do the eye sets. We'll do all the crazy sets everyone would leave down. And we used to do them because they were left down. So we know they always needed them. And what happened was, what the supervisor was doing was, they decided when she came in, they were going to have all her trays ready for her already on the cart. And it was like, oh yeah, so-and-so, come over here. We already got the cart ready for you, boo. But what she didn't know is they would mix up her sets on purpose. So she spent a lot of time searching for instruments, going back and forth to the drawer looking for instruments. So it appeared that she didn't know what she was doing. So it's taking her forever to complete these sets that she probably can complete in 40 minutes or 30 minutes. Now it's taking her an hour and a half. And they knew that. And a couple of techs that sat around for probably about a week or two watching this, laughing, thinking it was funny, until eventually one of them told her that it happened to them before. And they wanted to let her know that she was being set up every day that she came into work when that supervisor gave her a cart of trays that they picked for her.
Yeah, I've seen stuff of like that, and I've seen instances of that kind of stuff. And I was about to ask you, and you kind of you alluded to it, where you said, based on your pay and stuff like that, have you ever had problems when you went into these facilities based on you being a traveler and them knowing that you make more money because they had to bring you in? And sabotage is definitely a direct reflection of some of that. And another part of that is, do you get those assignments that they don't want to do? Do you get those trades that people tend not to want to pick up because you are a traveler?
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's been situations where you have managers even make comments. Well, I'm paying you $75 an hour, to be in decon. If I want you in decon, that's where you're going to go. So now everybody looking like, oh my God, $75 an hour. The traveler looking like $75 an hour. I'm not getting $75 an hour, but I guess that was the bill rate, so everybody definitely at that point felt some kind of way toward the traveler, because it's like, he's making $75 an hour and I'm only making $12 or $13 an hour. So yeah, they really believe that because we're making a great amount of money, that they are going to put us in the places that, other people don't want to go, which is decon. When I was recruiting, there was a guy who, he was in decon, his contract. And he was like, Selendra, he was like, I've been in decon for 2 months. And he was really upset because he said when he looked through to the other side in assembly, they were sitting up there on their phones. They had their feet kicked up and they were enjoying themselves. And he had been in decon for 6 weeks. And I was like, well, how many cases do they have there? Selendra, that's not the point. It's not the point. It's the point that they have me in decon. I said, sir, look, check this out. You've been paying premium money to be in decon where you don't even have that many cases. And they need you there. That may happen sometime, but just remember, you're only there for 13 weeks and they're paying you for a service. But he couldn't get past the fact that he knew they put him in there because he was a traveler. And that part right there, he couldn't get past. It's like, you got to get past that. They're going to do that to you. You're getting paid premium money to provide a service, and that's all you have to do. So yeah, they definitely have us doing things that they put me in decon a lot. I didn't care because I like decon. You know why? Because I'm away from all the drama. I can have my little music. If they allow you to put your earbuds in, I'll put my earbuds in. And guess what? When Selendra's in decon, you don't have to worry about sending stuff back to decon, because I'm gonna make sure that everything is opened up. I'm making sure everything is orderly, and it helps with the flow on assembly. So I was the best person to have in there anyway. Then I give you another point. I had a supervisor that told me I had a tray, and it haunts me today because I guess I'm a perfectionist and it bothered me. And I was like, so she said it was dirty. And I'm like, well, do you have any pictures of anything? No, we don't have any pictures. Oh, okay. And you said I mixed up the set tag, right? Oh, yeah, you mixed up the tag. So where is the other tray that I mixed it up with? Oh, it never popped up. You guys don't know what the other tray was or anything? Like you can go back to SPM and see what I was scanning around the same time. Could you tell me I mixed up the trays? Oh, okay. Let me tell you what she said. I had a dirty, the cannula for the Da Vinci. The cannula? The cannula. So you look through the cannula, and she told me it was dirty. And in that particular facility I was in, you had to have a second check on the cannula. You know how big the cannula is for the Da Vinci.
Right.
And so I had my second check. So when she called me in the office, I said, well, I did the second check you guys tell me to do. I said, I really apologize for this happening. I said, what can I do to prevent it? She was like, get a third check. I said, you know what? I don't know what's going on here. But I'm like, I felt like I was being sabotaged. But I was like, you know what? Thank you for your time. I'll do better next time. And when they sent me to decon, I went to decon.
Yeah, one of my contracts, I can recall that I actually stayed in decon for 6 months.
Whoa.
That was my entire 2 contracts. I was in decon the entire time. I did not complain one time because that was just the nature of the business. Like, yes. and I realized that's what it was. You wanted the traveler there because nobody wanted to go in decon.
Yes.
So I stayed in decon the entire time, and it's just what we were there for. So I mean, that's the assignment. You do what they ask you to do.
Yes, that's it. Get your hydration going on. Make sure you got you some, Powerade or whatever. And I even thought about this too, coming up with some menus for people like food, what to eat before you go in decon to make sure you got your body right, and make sure you got your energy up. And that's it. Listen to your music, zone out, and do the job. I don't get it.
So we talked about it briefly earlier so you had all of your stuff when you started traveling. Yes. So for those people out there in the, in these missions now, and they're having to get their training and do it on their own, what suggestions do you have for them as they're trying to get more certifications and move up in their careers, as far as if they want to be Triple Crown, if they want to be Gold Crown? What do you suggest for them?
I suggest, just do it. Besides the whole Nike thing, just do it. That's the only thing I can think of is just do it. And that's it. I don't see what's holding people back. I guess a lot of people are looking for the pay that goes with it. Well, get over that. I would just say do it because you want to be the best in the game. That was my whole purpose, was to get the certifications and get the knowledge just to be the best I can be when I'm out there, and make myself valuable, make myself marketable, and make myself an asset wherever I go. Make myself more competitive. When they look at my resume, it separated me from everyone else. Like I said at the beginning, when I first started traveling, I didn't have any travel experience, and all I had was my certification. So I know that was the reason why I got contract after contract without having any experience at the beginning. So it's not really hard. I don't see what the barriers are that people seem to run into because they're traveling, they can't get certified. Just remove the barriers, know that you can do it, know that the patients need you to do it, and know that we're all here to support you. There's so much information out here on the internet. We have this platform and other platforms to help you along the way, to help you figure it out. So if you are running into those roadblocks, then tap in, reach out to one of us out here, and we'll help you get through it. It's just that simple. Just do it.
Now, on the contract that you've been on recently,
yes.
Are they doing scopes in the facilities that you're in? Are they actually doing scopes and are adapting the new standards as they are currently?
Okay, I'm in a permanent position right now.
Okay.
And, but SPD is not doing scopes. That's a totally separate. It's under sterile processing, but it's not down in the heat of SPD. They have scope techs, which are SPD techs, but they just call them scope techs, and they have their own room now, and they're moving more toward just having them get their CER and just be certified endoscope reprocessors now. So it's almost like a whole nother entity now.
So my endo techs do fall under SPD as well, but my sterile processing techs do rotate through there as well. So we had to adapt to the new standards. So my travelers that come do rotate through endo as well. So they've had to actually go through there as well.
Okay.
So that's what I'm saying. So when your travelers come, if for travelers, do they have to adhere to the same standards? Is guess what I'm getting at?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Now where I'm at right now, the travelers, they don't let them touch everything. So the travelers are not going to do sterilization. They're not going up there and doing endoscopes. So
Okay.
they're pretty much just doing us. They're not picking cases because we pick cases. So they're only doing assembly and decon.
Okay. So in the same sense, when you get to a facility with all of your experience and knowledge, they may bring you there as a tech. But when they see that you know the things you know, do they ever try to use you in a role that you weren't brought there for, i.e., as an educator or lead or a supervisor?
Oh yes, training people, educator or trainer. Yes, they definitely try to do that. I mean, they definitely have done that, and it depends on the extent of how much I'm being utilized. It's okay because I like helping and teaching people, but then it gets to the point where now it's time to renegotiate that contract because now you have me in a role that I wasn't signed up for. So yeah, we want to renegotiate that contract and go ahead and give me the money that I'm entitled to. Then I could be a full blown, because I need that on my resume and it looks good on my resume. So I want to be for real, an educator or a trainer or what have you. But yeah, they definitely will use you if they can in those different roles. But hey, you got to think about it too. Let them use you a little bit, because you know why? You want to use that manager as a reference or that supervisor as a reference. So, and then it also increases your skills, because it's one thing to know something, it's something totally different to teach it. So if you're able to know something and you're able to teach it, it increases your skills even more. It makes you even more valuable. And you say, you know what, maybe I do like that educator. And now you went from traveling as a tech, now you're traveling as an educator, something you never thought you even could do, because that's possible too. You can travel as an educator, a supervisor, a manager, a liaison. You know, the possibilities are endless. So while you out there, start thinking about building other skills and doing other things and change your life.
Now, once you renegotiate and they actually renegotiate it, so then does that change your position that you're there for? So now you're there as a travel educator, travel lead. Is that what you renegotiate to?
Yes.
Okay. So then that goes back to what we talked about earlier. So now that you weren't there originally to change the culture, now you weren't there originally to get into the politics or to get behind. So now you've changed the stance a little bit, because now when you see them doing something wrong, you have the ability to say something.
Yes.
Okay. So now we've had to change our tune a little bit.
Yes.
Because now we get paid to change our tune.
Yes.
Okay. I just want to make sure. We was on the same page. That's all. I just want to make sure we was talking about the same thing now. Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Now I put my now I have my glasses on. Now I'm looking around. Now, yes. Because it's all on me now. Now I'm being held accountable to a whole nother standard and everything. So yes, I'm definitely paying attention to the culture and everything and how people move. Yes.
So now you don't mind being called Miss Amy?
No. You absolutely should call me Miss Amy. That's a compliment at this point. Yes.
Okay. So now and it's a tough question. Now that they see that you know what you're doing, now that you've renegotiated, the manager or director or whoever, when you have to have that tough conversation with them because they were the ones who were instructing these people who didn't or wasn't doing things correctly.
Right.
How do you get them to realize that they were the ones leading this charge of people doing things incorrectly, and now we have to change policies and standards of work, and we have to make sure that we do this correctly. We're gonna go to commercial. I give you a chance to think about that, because now we are really going to change the culture, because the leader was the one that was doing things incorrectly.
Yes.
So we're gonna go to commercial. When we come back, now we have to talk to the person in charge and say, hey, you were the one that was doing things wrong. So let's go to commercial, and when we come back, we'll talk about it.
Okay.
Hey, we're here again. I'm talking to Selendra Barefield. We're talking about travel. I think a zero one more time. Look at this. Perfect. Look at the shoes. Treat your feet. Get you a pair. Use time to talk to get your discount. Treat your feet. Selendra, before we
Yeah.
went to commercial, you have been brought to this facility as a traveler. You've shown that your expertise, you had to, they saw that you know what you were doing. You got into a point where they said, "Hey, we want you to train our people." You trained them a little bit. You said, "Hey, I want training, but that's not what I was brought here for. If you want me to continue doing this, let's negotiate." We renegotiated. Now you're in a position of leadership, as whether that be lead, supervisor, or educator. You're now in a position to train. You started training, started going over the SOPs and stuff, and said, "Hey, this needs to be changed. That needs to be changed."
Yes.
Now we have this conversation with the leadership and say policies need to be reworded, this, that, and the third, respectfully.
Yes. Yes.
Leadership, you were the one responsible for this. Do you? How do you handle those conversations? Because now it's you. You're the educator. You're
Yes.
responsible for getting everybody trained. How do you approach that, knowing that you're temporary? You're a visitor. You at some point your contract is going to end,
Yes.
but how do you handle that? That's pressure. That's a
Yes.
lot of pressure. How do you handle
Yes.
that?
Well, of course, it always comes down to who's your audience, who you're talking to. So you got to handle everybody differently. But I will come from an angle of I'm there to help, and this is what I need to do to be able to help that particular person. So it's more of a helping, a more of a giving, a more how I can change things, how I can benefit him or her. It happened to me before. It was a permanent position, and I was at a location where a lot of things that they were told were wrong, and they were told by the manager. And luckily for me, the manager was open for conversation, but usually I try to go in my conversations with a win-win, if that makes any sense. So it's kind of like, this is what we need to do. This is what I can do to help, and I need your support. But every manager is not open to hear that, because there's managers I've encountered where it's like, no, this is where we're doing it, and this is how I want it to be done. In a situation like that, I've never experienced a manager telling me this is, and we know it's wrong, and we know the policy has to change. I never experienced that. What would I
But
do in a situation like that?
but that's what I was referring to earlier when I
Oh,
said you know what you're doing is correct, but when you see
man.
somebody else who says this is how we do it here.
Oh, and now that person is the manager? Oh my goodness. Okay, I would have to go about it the same way. I mean, that's sticky, because it's just like, you know what? It's sticky because I can go about it the same way and say, hey, this is wrong. And they'd be like, you know what? We canceling your contract. So I have to stick to my guns and do what's right. And if they cancel my contract, they cancel. But I can't change the policies without the manager's approval.
Right. So that's the situation we find ourselves in as travelers, because if we go into a facility and we know what we know, we're certified, we know the rules, Amy standards all the way to the top. We know. You walk into that place, you see the standards of work that they have posted, and you're like, "Hey, wait, this is not right." And you know the correct way, and you bring it to their attention, and somebody says to you, "This is the way we do it here." What do you do?
Oh, well, yeah. If it's a staff to say that's the way we've done it here, then I'm going
And
to
then, I
show them.
mean, but I'm saying that's the staff that says it, but the manager's the one who created the SOP, and that's the policy that's there. What do you do?
We
Because
need
we're
to have
not
a
there. I mean, we're not there to change. We're not there to ruffle feathers, right?
I guess I'm going to have to ruffle the feathers. I'm going to have to, because I'm like, this is the way you've done it, but I'm going to have to come with some data to back up the reason why this is not correct, the reason why this is an issue, the reason why it's not standard, or, patient safety or employee safety. I'm going to have to come with the data to say, this is the reason why I need to change. Now, if I'm dealing with somebody that's not going to respond to data and they want me to continue to do something that I know is wrong, Oh, I don't even want to tell you what I do, but I mean, to be honest, because we all this time to talk, we can talk real talk.
I mean,
Then
that's what we're talking.
it's gonna have to be escalated.
I mean, because this is how I say this, because this is where you got people who are probably in these situations. And that's
Yes,
why my show is this way, because these are conversations that people have probably want to have, because I know people for a fact right now are in these situations where
yes,
you hear people say, this is the way we do it. This is what it is. Amy doesn't work here. I've heard it, when I first started, I've heard people say it. Amy doesn't work here and so on and so forth. And I'm like, but that's the standard. Though, like, hey, hold up.
yeah,
So what do you do? Yes, I think the benchmark, as Denard said, you set
Denard saw
benchmarks,
that.
and you have to know what. And you're right. If you have data, it can be
Yes,
proven points. They
yes,
have to listen at some point. And
yes,
if that is a cancel of a contract, I think I'd rather have my contract canceled than to do something that's going to put a patient at risk.
yes,
That's me. I can't speak for
yes,
everybody else because
yeah,
that's me though.
yeah, yeah. That's you.
And,
You
and like
absolutely right.
And Denard said, you let them know what the new expectations are, and that's like I said, based on your data, what the standard is, and you can prove these things. So,
But then if you're talking to the manager, you can say all that in the benchmarking, and it's like they don't even care. It's like they're the ones saying this is how we do it. So at that point, it's like you escalate it to the next person above them. I don't know if it's the integrity hotline that you want to call, whoever their manager or boss is. I mean, if you really just want to blow the whistle and get everybody involved, you absolutely have the right to do that, but you definitely will be canceled.
but I said it comes back to that whole point of you're a temporary staff that
Yeah,
they've brought in to help their situation,
yeah,
and at the end of the day, that is the bottom line for them is that you can be canceled.
yes,
They would bring somebody else in who is,
yeah,
you can be replaced. That's the
yes,
bottom line to it. You are a temporary staff that they brought in there to help them, but if you
yes,
stay the ruffling of the feathers, I say that to a lot of travelers
yes.
all the time. I don't get involved with the politics, but I would not do something to harm a patient at the same time.
Right, right.
Standards of work are in place for a reason.
Yes,
SOPs are in place for a reason. We follow the standards for a reason. And when
yes,
you have that dangerous manager out there that their way or no way,
yes.
they are there. So and that
Now,
was gonna be my next.
would
Go
would
ahead.
you leave? Would you leave? Like if you were in a situation like that before they cancel you, would you just say, you know what, I'm putting in my 2 week notice, I'm out of here?
If I run into a manager that's my way or the highway, that's probably what I would do. That's me though.
Yes,
That's what I'm saying. That's me because like I
yes,
said, I say like they said, like Sharon said, send an email to your agency because you can be canceled, but someone else is looking for help.
hey, yeah, for real.
I rather like do the proper channel. You notify them of the situation. You notify
Yes,
your agency of the situation, so therefore someone has kept abreast of what's happening. So it's not like you walked out. You let them know what's
right.
happening, so that you keep somebody in the loop. Because he can turn it around and say you walked out, and then
That's true.
that kind of situation. So, but yeah, I've seen it. I mean, these are things that have really happened.
Oh, see,
I've
that
had,
never happened to me before. Wow.
I mean, there are managers that will look at you and say, "Oh, you have data and proof. You can look up the standard and say, oh, this, that, and the third." Like you're saying, so you have them that will listen to you, but then you have
Yes.
managers that say, "Yeah, no, this is the way. This is what we do here. This is what I wrote." so that's the way that goes. So,
Jeez.
but in those scenarios, so as a traveler, you're back in your travel, so you're
Okay.
traveling,
Thank
and
you.
so you're back to being a traveler
Good.
now.
Thank you, Lord.
So okay, you're back in your travel mode, and
Um,
you get to the okay. So as a traveler, when you go to these places, how helpful are they when it comes down to you? Do you find your own housing? Do you let the company do it? How has your experiences been when you're going to these new places and getting comfortable and finding your accommodations?
yes, I found my own housing because
Has
yeah,
it has it most for people that are aspiring to go travel? Is it easier that way for you, or is it more is it better for the company to do it?
It's better for me to do it only because I'm trying to save money. So usually, I mean, I Airbnb until I figure out the lay of the land first, and then after that, I'll look for short-term leases, or I'm on Craigslist, which some people feel is kind of risky, but I do Craigslist after that, and I find my housing. I usually do not let the agency find housing for me. It's horror stories in that too, because you don't even know where they're going to put you. They put you in places that are not that nice to be sometimes. Yeah, I find my own housing. I never had a problem with finding housing.
Okay. Again, people, say somebody said, how do travelers navigate solicitation, housing, roommate relationships? How do you deal with the roommate relationships?
Somebody said romantic relationship.
Is
Who
it
they get
romantic?
romantic
I'm sorry.
with?
Oh,
With who?
I mean, like if
The person you
you,
in the room
I
from?
guess if you left a romantic relationship and you go on the road to travel, like how do you deal
I
with that?
experienced that because I'm married, and I was married when I was traveling.
So
So
is that hard, or do you take your family on the road and things like that?
what I did, that's why I stayed in the Southeast, because I
Okay.
always wanted to be somewhere I can drive back home. So I committed to driving home every other weekend
Okay.
in my marriage. That's what I did. And then other times he would come out to where I was. Probably at least one time during my contract. So that's why I stayed in the Southeast. Otherwise, I would have went anywhere in the United States, but I just stayed in the Southeast because I was married. And I wanted somewhere I can drive home every other weekend. So I try to stay within 5 to 6 hours drive time.
Okay, so it's basically you make it work for what you need to make it work for. So
Yes.
with relationships, you just gotta basically have some kind of understanding either way.
Yes. It's not, I mean, it wasn't difficult really for us, I guess, because I always been, I don't know, like a loner, I guess you can say. So I've always been comfortable being by myself. And then I would send gifts home. I would do things like that, like send little treats and stuff home. So he'll come home and something from Amazon is on the front door and different things like that. So I stayed connected, and videos and stuff like that, sending postcards and pictures and different things like that, trying to stay connected, and that worked for us.
I've seen people do it both ways. I've seen whole families travel. I've
Yes,
seen, people go fly home every weekend. So I've seen it
yes,
both ways. And some people say it's hard either way.
yes,
The NAR said it's all about communication. So I guess it's that everybody has their own different ways of making it work, to
yes,
say the least.
yeah.
So for you, when you were traveling, what was the hardest part for those people aspiring to be travelers? What was the hardest part of traveling?
A lot of people had a hard time leaving their family behind. People were homesick. That's the biggest thing I saw. People were homesick, and they were intimidated by the things they didn't know when they got there. They felt overwhelmed with a lot of things they didn't know, especially their first time. And they just had to just realize that you're not going to know everything. And what you know, you know. And what you don't know, you just ask questions, because you have people that been in that same facility for, 10 to 20 years, and they run into something they don't know, or an instrument they never seen before, or a question they have to ask. So that was the biggest challenge. People being away from home, and people being overwhelmed, or feeling like, because like you said, we have to hit the ground running. So we're expected to know everything, but we don't. And it's okay saying, I don't know. And it's okay to ask for help. So I had to ask for help, and I had to say, I don't know.
So be honest on your skills assessment, basically.
Oh, no, nobody's going to be honest on the skills assessment, because they may not get that contract. So they're going to say yes, 5 on everything, knowing they don't even know how long to soak a Da Vinci. They don't know they don't know 430. They don't know anything. People going to lie on those assessments. That's another thing too, though. And that it is a hindrance to people that they do lie and don't tell the truth, because it sets them up for failure. Because they get to these places and they say, oh, do you know how to work, Belamed? And they's like, yeah, I know Belamed. And they get there and they don't know how to work the Belamed sterilizer, or they don't know how to work the washers. They don't know how to work all these different things, like the System 1E, which I haven't seen since I was in California. But yeah, people tell the lies on there, and then they get out there and they really don't know. So if you're going to lie on the checklist, you better start doing some YouTube University to get yourself familiar with it before you actually get out there on the contract.
And like they just said, do you even read the contract? Do you know what your contract
That's
entails?
another problem. They do not read the contract. It's been many times when people will call and ask for things or make statements and stuff. And it's like, well, that wasn't in your contract. And you definitely need to make sure if you supposed to get guaranteed hours, which is hard to find, it better be in your contract. If you're not working weekends and you don't have to do call, it better be in your contract, because if it's not in your contract, it wasn't said.
Mm. Well, that's definitely something that I think anybody aspiring to be a traveler should take heed to, because
Yes.
I've seen that as well. People calling back to their companies like,
Yes.
"Hey, I thought I was this, or I thought I was that," and then they'll say, "Hey, did you read the contract?" And
Yes.
they're so happy to have a contract, they just initial everything. And I'm like,
Yes.
yeah, don't ever do that. You see
No.
that, and then you see that number. They throw that number out there, and that's the most important thing to people. And you never read the fine print. So that's always
No.
a plus. So anybody aspiring to be a traveler, if you're listening to this, always read the contract.
Yes.
Always read
Read
the
the
contract.
contract. And it's been times, because when I got out there, I didn't, think about holiday, and it's like, do I get holiday pay or do I have to work the holiday? And a lot of times you'll find out that if you don't work so many hours in a week, then it start eating away at your stipend. So, a
Right,
lot of
right,
people were trying
right.
to make up that time, because it's like, okay, I'm missing the hours, but now it's eating into my stipend. So I need to make up that money too. I didn't realize that when I was out there. I didn't realize too that, you getting paid $20 an hour, and then you getting your tax-free money. I didn't realize that I could have asked for more than time and a half off that 20, because the bill rate was more than that. So I'm like, you know what? I could have been getting paid more money for time and a half when I worked overtime, but I didn't know that. So I didn't know to negotiate that in my contract as well, to get paid more money for overtime.
Back when we was talking about the checklist, the nurse said if they tell the truth, they will get the opportunity. Most people
Mm-hmm.
don't think like that though. Most people think
Mm-hmm.
they're supposed to have all fives, or they're supposed to be an
Yes.
expert at everything.
Yes.
Because they say you got to have that 2 years. People think in 2 years you're an expert in everything. So you put all fives down, and then like you said, you get out there and they have that System 1E, which most people haven't seen, or like you got stairs in your facility and they got a belly mat, and you think you're supposed
Yes.
to have seen it, and then you get there and then it's like, how do you start the washer?
Yes.
Like, oh,
Yes.
like I thought you were an expert. Like, yeah, so you're right. Tell the truth. I mean, if they willing to train you, they'll train you. If not, then we got a different problem. We got a different set of
Yes.
problems, because now you done lied on everything. So yeah, I think, like I said, I think that overall you've seen a variety of different good things. You've
Yes.
seen some bad things. Like you said, the worst thing you've seen is that, like, people missing their families and stuff like that.
Yes.
What if you had to give advice to somebody who is aspiring to be? Let's start there. If you had to give advice to somebody aspiring to be a traveler,
Yes.
what would you tell them?
Go in there with an open mind. Like I said, you're not going to know everything. Be willing to say you don't know. Ask for help when you need it. Understand the difference between hospital policy and, I guess, standards, because like I probably said 1,000 times, I walked into places. I've been used to double pill packing forever, and I walked into a place and it was single pill pack. I almost fell out. I'm like, oh my God, they're doing this all wrong, and I didn't realize. They was like, no, we single pill pack here. So it was just some things that are policies, and some things are the standards, and it's like you need to know the
Right.
difference between the two, and don't just go in there looking for what's wrong, or going in there trying to put out fires, or just overstepping. You
Right.
are a guest in their house, and you're there to help them out, and just pretty much do it, and always be, I guess, a forever student. Be always willing to learn, and look at it as a great opportunity to learn everything you can, because in my mind, if you out there traveling for 2 years, it's almost like somebody been in one place for 4, as far as I think the knowledge that you get, and the confidence that you get, and the networking you get while you out there, because you get to meet a
Right.
lot of people while you out there, the managers, the other techs, the other travelers and stuff out there, the different cities that you living in. You may find a new city like, this is home now, so you get to travel to different cities and stuff that may be home for you for free. That's how I look at it. So it's so many opportunities. So just do it. Don't be afraid. Reach out to people to help ground you, and know that it's always the first time for all of us. We were all scared, and you will get past it.
Okay. Now, given the climate that we're in, and uh, given the climate that we're in, and everybody's short staffed, and
Yes.
everybody's been worked overtime, and everybody's looking, and they say that the job market is not what it's supposed to be, and you
Yes.
have travelers that are on assignments, and there's a lot of people that are discouraged, and being, I mean, the money's good, but they're working for that money on these contracts. What do
Yes.
you say to those travelers that are feeling discouraged and like, hey, I'm almost done, I'm almost done? What do you do? What do you say to encourage those travelers to stay and fight the good fight?
If you get to the point where you're almost done, you probably are done. I mean, to be honest, I mean, because when you get to the point, it is time to go. What is your exit plan? Really is the question. Where are you going to go after that? Did you set yourself up for that transition? Because a lot of people get out there and we making that good money. We balling out of control. So we spending money, we buying cars, and we doing all this other stuff. So did you even set yourself up for when it's time to get at a permanent facility? Did you pay your bills off? Did you get your certifications? Did you make those connections? Did you build up your skills so you can get in that manager position so you can make some money close to what you're making as traveling? Because if you do get to the point where you do want to go home, and I think that's okay. And when it's time to tap out, you should, before you start slackening your skills and not giving it your all. We need people out there giving it their all. So if you get to the point where you don't want to give it your all anymore, then it's time to go.
Okay.
I'm sorry. That's my answer. I don't know what to tell people when they feel the good fight. Yeah, it's gonna be a fight when you find your permanent position too. So it's still gonna be a fight.
So is that the transition? Is it transition from travel to permanent to be manager lead? Is that the next step? Once
I
you're
believe
done, if once you're done being on the road, is that it?
only if you're looking for the money. Because when you go back, I had a shock to my system when I went back from traveling to a tech, and the money difference. I was like, oh my God, I got to move up, because if I want to make that kind of money, I can't make it as a tech. So I don't understand. I guess, okay, so the motivation for the people who don't want to do it anymore and they traveling, start thinking about that tech money you're gonna make when you go back home. And that's motivation enough to keep traveling out there, because you can't go back home and be a tech. You would have to move up in leadership some kind of way.
That's what Denard just said. Denard said you got to get one that suits your skill set. So,
Yeah.
so yeah, I get what you're saying there. So, yeah. So,
Yeah.
with that being said, Selendra, it's been a pleasure. Hey, I, and this is what I'm gonna say in closing for everybody. I traveled extensively for about 10 years myself,
Uh-huh.
and she is absolutely correct. You have to put yourself in a position to get off the road. You have to be in a mindset to want to do better, want to be better than where you were at. You
Yes.
want to always be a sponge and keep learning. You want to put yourself in that position to go to the next level.
Yes.
Once you take that permanent position, you're right. It is nothing like being on the road. She hit it right on the head. Once you're out there traveling and you see those checks, you're balling out of control. But once you go to be a regular position, it is nothing like that at all.
No.
So again, to my brothers and sisters that are traveling, hey,
Yeah.
we appreciate you from a manager standpoint.
Oh
Some
yeah.
of us couldn't run our facilities without you.
Yes.
And we appreciate what y'all bring to the table. And again, we appreciate it. We thank you. And
Yes.
for the people that are aspiring to be travelers, again, there's nothing wrong with traveling. Just make sure that you set yourself in a position to travel, get what you can get from the facilities that you're at, learn all you can while you're at those facilities, because don't be like some of these people and just mark fives because you can. Because once you get to some of these facilities, it's going to test you on that five, because you will go to these decons, you will be on these tables, you will be in these case car areas, you will be in some of these areas that you probably haven't seen yet, like going to that scope room, because it's now part of our job. That CER is a real thing. Like, the
Yes.
standards have changed and people are being tested on it. So again, this has been time to talk. I thank you for joining me in the living room.
Yes.
Hey, family, next week I do have a treat for you. We will be, you know what? I'm gonna bring you more information on that. But
Ooh.
Selendra, thank you. I
Thank
got to
you.
thank you. I appreciate you. It's always been a pleasure. Next week, time to talk. Thank you so much, everybody. We'll see you soon.